You're listening to WCOM LP 103.5 FM Carborough and Chapel Hill. It's a Tuesday, it's 5 o'clock, and that only means one thing. It's time for another round of Snarky Faith with your host, Stuart Deloney. This is a space where we irreverently wrestle through life, culture, and spirituality, all with our heads in the clouds, our tongues in our cheeks, our hearts in our sleeves, and our feet on the ground. At Snarky Faith, the questions or even the answers are never the point. It's all about the conversation. So here's your host, Stuart Deloney.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to another round of Snarky Faith Radio. I'm your host, Stuart Deloney, and thank you again for joining us this week where we try to dissect the sanity out of Christianity in the way the world is today. And without me saying anything else, I just kind of feel like we need to begin the show with a little bit of reverent prophecy. That's right. We're going to start off with some prophecy. Because folks out there, I know you think I'm snarky. I know you think I like to make fun of stuff and make light of a lot of different situations. But when it comes to prophecy, I'm dead serious. So we're starting off. Not really. I'm really not dead serious. I was trying to keep it in there. Try to keep it going there. I can't even do it. So, all right, fine. I'm going to go ahead and show my hand here. And yes, we're going to begin with some prophecy from Pat Robertson because he is a wise man of God and a prophet, and his opinions and prophecy should be revered above all else. So, to kind of give you the flavor of where we're going for this hour on the show, I think we just need to get into that headspace, listening to what Pat has to say. Because when Pat Robertson prophesies, you know it's going to be accurate. 110% of the time. Absolutely. So here we go. Just to kick off the show, because it's good stuff. With thanks from Right Wing Watch, who put this thing together. So it's quite beautiful. And in the season, I think we need some beauty and joy. So, Pat, show us what the Lord's got for you.
The House will not vote impeachment. There will be no impeachment. They don't have the courage to do it, and there is no way that there'll be a majority vote in the United States House of Representatives to bring forth a bill of impeachment, which then go to the Senate and so forth. And my prediction is it isn't going to happen. They will not have a vote. There will be no impeachment, and we'll go forward to the election. I don't believe there will be an impeachment vote. As I said before, I'll say it again, there is not going to be an impeachment vote in the House that really puts everybody on record. Well, here's my fearless prediction one more time. The House does not have the guts to vote impeachment. They will not vote impeachment. They will not vote it. They just, mark my word, they do not have the courage to go for the American people. This is all a publicity stunt. Ladies and gentlemen, I've said it before, I'll say it again. There is no way that these Democrats will dare to vote impeachment, to vote a bill of impeachment. The whole thing is a sham, and I don't know why the press keeps putting these headlines out like it's something important. They're not going to vote impeachment. Trust me, they would not dare to do this.
Trust me, they would not dare to do this. And this is never going to happen. Pat said, no way, no how, not on my watch, ain't going to happen. And when Pat prophesies, I'm sorry, I'm getting something from my producer here on the show. Oh, they did impeach him. Oh, the House did vote to impeach him. Oh, right. That's a little embarrassing. And one thing I've noticed is typically when we have folks in this kind of mode, genre, ilk, whatever you want to call it, people don't typically like to keep the receipts on these kind of prophecies. But when we do, it gets a little embarrassing. It's a little embarrassing. Pat, come on. You've been so right in the past. Oh, wait, I'm hearing something again from my producers. Oh, he's never right. Oh, he's usually wrong. Oh, and he's often talking out of what? What is that? His ass? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I got the story all wrong. My bad. My bad. That's just on me. Oh, so if that gives you a little taste, if that gives you a little taste of where we're going today, you know exactly what you're in for. So we're going to be talking through a bunch of some of this impeachment insanity and how those on the religious right are responding. And then we're going to do a deeper dive a little bit later in the show about the Christianity Today op-ed that came out saying that Trump needed to be impeached. And don't worry, I'm not going to gloat. Don't worry, I'm not going to say that they're all right at Christianity Today, because we wouldn't be Snarky Faith if I wasn't even going to call it Christianity Today's BS too. But, 'tis the season to call out BS, because that's what you get here on the show. And without further ado, let's go ahead and hop in to the insanity of Christianity. Here we go.
Lord have mercy. The Lord is my shepherd. He know what I want.
Well, speaking about impeachment, let's go ahead and just kind of do a little bit of a dive here into Representative Barry Loudermilk from Georgia. What Barry had to say during these recent hearings, because I think you're going to catch something that's going to be a little, I'm sorry, what? Who? A what? We're going to get a little bit of that. So let me just go ahead and just go ahead and listen to him, and then we'll digest. We'll digest.
Of innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But on November the 14th, Speaker Pelosi informed the press that the president should prove his innocence when she stated, Mr. President, if you have anything that shows your innocence, then he should make that known. The Constitution also guarantees that the accused can call witnesses to testify on their behalf. But the Republicans and the president were continually denied that right throughout this process. The Sixth Amendment guarantees the right of the defendant to face their accuser. But not only have the Democrats prohibited Republicans and the president from questioning the so-called whistleblower, his identity has been kept secret. Before you take this historic vote today, 1 week before Christmas, I want you to keep this in mind. When Jesus was falsely accused of treason, Pontius Pilate gave Jesus the opportunity to face his accusers. During that sham trial, Pontius Pilate afforded more rights to Jesus than the Democrats have afforded this president in this process. I yield back.
What was that? What? Ruh-roh. Something just happened there. So many questions for Representative Loudermilk. I mean, we've joked on the show about Trump being the orange messiah for the evangelicals, but this is kind of connecting dots I didn't expect them to actually connect. But seriously, okay. So poor Trump, because he's getting treated worse than Jesus? And if that's true, do we get to crucify him? Ooh, Barabbas or Trump? Barabbas. No. Sorry. No, I'm not inciting violence here. I'm just trying to tease out what it looks like when people use really stupid and flawed logic. I mean, and I even say stupid and flawed logic. That gets into the icky zone of heresy and idolatry. Yeah, I don't think that was well thought out. I don't think that's well thought out, but to the folks he's speaking to, I don't think well thought out is something that really is paramount to them in that. So yeah, wow. But we'll have more on Trump later. So speaking about the insanity of the religious right. See, one thing that we need to understand, that we are not, I know on the show, I kind of come on here and I mock stuff and we make fun of stuff because, you know, it's all in good fun, or it's just really cheaper than therapy for me. And you guys are just simply along for the ride, which, hey, you guys are awesome. Thanks for being along with the ride with me. But I think we really need to get into the mindset of exactly how stuff like this works. Like, how does the messages of God come to the people? How do prophets know what to prophesy about that. Right. I mean, he's had a few misses. He may have more misses than hits in his prophecy days, but for us to fully understand and to fully talk through this, we need to figure out here what Cindy Jacobs is saying. Cindy Jacobs has kind of got like this brain download. She's on the Jim Baker show, so you know it's good. And Cindy Jacobs is really telling us how prophecy works and how it goes from God to people and all that kind of good stuff. It's going to be better than you could have ever imagined. If you can imagine a lot, then I'm probably overselling it at this moment, but it definitely deserves to be here right smack dab in the middle of the Christian crazy. So, hey, Cindy, tell us something that's not crazy. Oh, that would be roll the clip of silence. Okay, sorry. Hey, Cindy, tell us what you think about prophecy. And please do it in the most ridiculous and convoluted way possible. Okay? Okay. I know you got this. Go ahead, girlfriend.
Think of the power of this kind of media, Jim. Think about, okay, we're seated with him at heavenly places. We're prophesying from the throne room. Positionally, that's where we prophesy from. Anybody can prophesy, oh, I see chaos coming or this or that, but they're prophesying more along the natural scenes. No, we prophesy the will of God to the earth from heaven, but when you prophesy from heaven and it goes into a satellite, there's a great authority in the heavens. You understand this?
Yeah.
This is an unbroken signal in a way, and then it's disseminated down. It is... maybe people don't understand even what I'm saying.
I don't even think you understand what you're saying. So when the prophecy happens, I feel like I'm getting into almost like, either like geography or real estate here. So we start here in the throne room, and this throne room, it has an adjacent bathroom. It's just wonderful. Look at the square footage in the throne room. And when you transmit from the throne room, it goes all the way to earth, but not too quickly, because also included in here is it goes to a satellite, which then broadcast. What is she talking about? Oh my goodness. That was just a bunch of like word vomit that was happening, but it's spiritual word vomit. It's almost like speaking in tongues. It's like gobbledygook. Maybe this is really what speaking in tongues means. Because in the past, when I've been around my brothers and sisters from the Pentecostal spectrum of Christianity, we kind of get the shamalama ramalama ding dong kind of like speaking in tongues. But honestly, her words aren't even really connecting and making any logical sense. So who am I to say that's not speaking in tongues? She's filled in the Spirit, and we just need someone to interpret it. I'm just a fool. I've overlooked it the whole time. Oh, Cindy. You dumb. So then, kind of transitioning from prophets and dumbness and impeachment, let's do something that combines all of those, right? So we know that the president has been impeached. Not calling for applause here yet, because we're probably not going to go anywhere. So the president has been impeached. And in this process, we've had him on the show, not really on the show, but his crazy in the Christian crazy has been featured on the show. So Rick Wiles from TruNews, again, and I say this every time because it still baffles my mind, TruNews has a press pass for the White House. TruNews, Rick Wiles, they're legit. No, they're not. So Rick had gotten some heat before when he was talking about all this that's coming against Trump is a large, and I'm using his words, not mine, a quote, Jew coup. A Jew coup, which he proceeded then to have this horribly anti-Semitic rant, as folks that would say the words Jew coup would. Yeah. And if you want to catch some of those rants, past shows, look it up. We've got them. But here's where the rubber meets the road here. So, first of all, Rick loves the notoriety. He loves the press he's gotten because he feels like he's got so many more people watching his crazy trash on a regular basis. Except there's also a second silver lining to all of this controversy that is going on around him being anti-Semitic. Just see if you can somehow subtly catch the silver lining here. Maybe even, dare I say it, the miracle. Rick?
The best Christmas present you could give me was all that publicity. It was worth millions of dollars. And all these people discovered us, and
they're still cycling those two words, Jew coup.
Yeah.
I mean, and
we got to get the T-shirt. We got to get the T-shirts
and the mugs, and
we got to get them ready for the trial. Right. I hope it's not a short. You see, if it's a short trial, we won't have a chance to sell the T-shirts.
As we know from any good prophet, I mean, I'm pretty sure this is biblically grounded here. So any prophet, any holy man of the Lord needs to have his exclusive swag and merchandising, because there's really no way for you to be able to understand how much the Lord loves you and wants to bless you unless you're just a flush with cash. Thank you for that good word, St. John Ralphio. But yes, unless we're flush with cash, unless we've got the swag, unless we're just, walking in the ways of St. Kanye, then how's anyone else supposed to know if we are favored and blessed by the Lord? Now, again, I have to do this. My wife contractually obligates me to do this during our show. In case people have just randomly tuned in and you're listening to a show called Snarky Faith, you have to realize we are thick with sarcasm. If you have not picked up on this by now, this is heavily sarcastic in what we're talking about here. Yes, lots of snark, lots of sarcasm. It's the only way we can handle this craziness. Right? Okay. So, Rick Wiles, just think about this. In his TruNews newscast, they want to make sure they're Trump supporters, but they want to make sure that the trial goes on as long as possible because they want to be able to sell T-shirts and mugs. And if it's a short trial, they're worried that they won't be able to sell enough T-shirts and mugs that, again, let's remind you, say, quote, not my words, his words, Jew coup. Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing in 2019. What's going on in the world? I don't know. But if you thought that's nuts, and if you think that is a ministry funding dollars fiasco, I'm going to up the ante right now with the Mormon Church. Come on, is anyone with me here? If you kind of use that as a segue, it instantly just informs your listeners you're going to be wading into the realm of crazy. You could say the Mormon Church or the Church of Scientology works every time. So, the Washington Post recently did an investigation because there was again, we have another whistleblower. This isn't about impeachment, but yes, there was a whistleblower within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints saying that the church holds this $100 billion. Like I'm Dr. Evil. $100 billion in a charitable fund for member donations that it hasn't spent for over 20 years because that money is intended for the second coming of Christ. Yes. They have $100 billion just squirreled away, stashed away, like little rainy day fund, just in case Jesus comes back. So I have so many questions. Besides the fact of, how is this a nonprofit? What are you doing with all of this? Yeah. No, all those logical answers, those are ones that we all normally have. But what I'm really thinking about, come on, what, Mormon Church, what are you thinking? Jesus comes back and you want to make sure you've got gold-plated holy underwear? I mean, where are we going with this? Or if Jesus comes back, finally we can drink caffeine. Ooh, let's get as much. I don't know. I really want to understand this. I'm really, really, really wanting to try to figure out where, what were your thoughts? I've been a part of wedding planning before. And what were you planning on your special day when Jesus comes back? $100 billion freaking dollars. Like, seriously, Mormon Church, like, show us your dream journal. What is happening here? I mean, are you assuming that, like, Jesus has gone into retirement and for him to, like, really do, like, oh, I know you've been in retirement all this time and it's going to take a lot of money to get you out of retirement. And assumably, once we have what, like $150 billion, Jesus is going to be like, okay, fine. I'll do a farewell tour. I'll come back for all of them, but I'm only going to do it for over $100 billion. What in the world is this? So yeah, that's a thing. That is a thing. And I'm sorry, Mormon Church. If you, I know you send out your young little disciples, your young little missionaries every year around the world to go door to door, somehow doing good for people by knocking on the door and giving out pamphlets, because that's what the Lord wants you to do. But seriously, how much real good could you have done around the world for $100 billion? It really just seems you're going around the world to collect more money, because the Mormon Church just, hey, if we've learned anything from Joseph Smith, we're holy as long as we are flush with cash. I mean, seriously. I mean, really seriously. To do anything with you guys even have Jesus Christ in the name of your church. You have $100 billion and you're not out feeding people. You're not out helping people. $100 billion. You could solve a lot of problems around the world besides, like, how do we make sure each of our adherents has holy golden underwear? I don't even know, but it's so stupid and it's so crass and it's disgusting. But yeah, that is the thing. And if you feel like with all the things we've had through the Christian crazy, that those are the worst, oh no. Not in this season of the holidays. No. I'm not leaving you with some sort of a lump of $150 billion lump of coal. You get better. But I will warn you. Well, this one just takes the cake. It just takes the cake. It's definitely a what the hell moment.
What in the hot hell is wrong with you?
What the hell is wrong with you people?
So yes, in this next part, I'm going to go ahead and issue a slight trigger warning for my listeners here. And I say this because we're going to be talking about a story that I will be making fun of that involves the death of a child. And when we deal with the death and loss, it is an extremely serious time. It is a very hard time, especially on a parent. I've had people very close to me die when I was younger. My sister died, and it is death is not something to be made fun of. But after I've made that caveat there, when you take the death of a child and you try to then put it up against your crazy theology and then try to create a movement around your beliefs and crazy theology that surround a dead child, I feel at that moment, then it's kind of fair game. You can disagree with me, and sure, if you do, rip me a new one. Questions at snarkyfaith.com. I will interact with you on this one. So, again, I'm treading lightly because the death of a child is nothing to be made fun of. But what I'm going to do is try to do this in somber terms, but really the reason we're making fun of this is because I'm really kind of wanting to point out the sickness of certain Christian belief systems and certain Christian communities. The sickness that plagues loss. And the sickness that plagues people when they are dealing with grief. Because to lose someone is it's heart-wrenching, and there are no words. And in this situation, I wish people would have relied on, I have no words. End of story. Let us just mourn in silence. Let us just mourn together. Let us hopefully, circle the wagons and really support this family. But that's not what happened here, because this is going to involve social media influence and the death of a child. So again, I understand I am treading on kind of thin ice with this, but I'm going to do it anyways. So this story, I mean, it has been all around the news, but I'm going to kind of be pulling from an article off BuzzFeed News. And this is, again, a sad, sad story. And again, I'm also going to give a second warning on the fact that I am terrible with pronouncing people's last names. And I probably should know this worship leader's last name because she's kind of a big deal, but I don't. So whatever. But in this article, they said earlier this week, Kaylee Hylandgenthal, I don't know, a worship leader and singer at Bethel Church in Redding, California, shared an Instagram that her 2-year-old daughter, Olive, had died. And she wrote that Olive had stopped breathing and was pronounced dead by the doctors on Sunday. So again, this is heartbreaking, and this is nothing to be made fun of. But it's not even really making fun of, but here's where I want to begin to point out like the sickness in all of this. The article continues, Kaylee wrote that she and her husband, Andrew, were asking her then 100,000 followers, Instagram followers, for, quote, bold and unified prayers to stand with us in belief that the Lord will raise this little girl back to life. Her time here with us is not done, and it is our time to believe boldly with confidence and to wield what King Jesus paid for. It's time for her to come to life. So the tragedy behind this story, this is back earlier in December. Yes, their daughter, the parents discovered their daughter stopped breathing and tried to revive her and then called 911. They take her to the hospital and they were not able to revive her, which again is heart-wrenching and heartbreaking. And in most situations, for people like just trying to draw straws and like grab for something in places of grief, I get that. But then for this to be bizarre and turn into something that's viral that they continue to push out and push harder on, that's where I begin to feel like faith begins to get sick and twisted and corrosive and just really, really, really makes no sense. So, article continues saying this. Kaylee's initial Instagram post went hugely viral, as did the post from her church. Bethel Church has a huge following on social media due to, in part to its popular Christian albums. The main account of @Bethel has 735,000 followers, and an account for its worship songs, Bethel Music, has 1.5 million. And Bethel's songs have been streamed for more than 100 million times on Spotify, including songs sung by Kaylee herself. Justin Bieber is one of the worship music's many fans. Despite the music's popularity, Bethel's interpretation of Christianity is controversial. Because in 2017, BuzzFeed had done a profile on them. Essentially, the church believes this. They believe in faith healing, prophesying, and raising from the dead in ways that somehow don't even make sense within like mainstream Christian churches. So again, am I saying God can't heal people? I'm not saying that. I'm not getting out after this. But what I am trying to say is when you're kind of trafficking with a dead child, it begins to make this thing that's really just kind of sad and sick and manipulative. Because again, she's pronounced dead. The body gets released, and then they're pushing this over social media that the Lord is going to resurrect the dead body of their child. And again, I understand that grief makes people crazy and makes people think all sorts of stuff, but it's even worse when it's marred with twisted and corrosive theology. Because again, they've been posting out, day 3 is a really good day for resurrection, and people all over are having these faith-filled declarations. People are trying to pray and worship for this child. And all the while, Kaylee's Instagram account has more than doubled. I'm not trying to say that's the thing, but even hashtag wake up Olive went viral. So you have people that are doing tributes, that are doing prayer services, worship gatherings, interpretive dances to try to somehow push the hand of God to be able to raise her from the dead. This is sick and it's twisted. And one of the things that I would say, theologically speaking, within American Christianity is we don't do mourning very well. We don't do pain very well. We don't do loss very well. We have to somehow spin it into something else. And we all know how this story is going to end. We do. And it ends the same way that it should have begun, with grieving parents that need their community and those that love them around them, surrounding them, to be with them during a time of pain. It doesn't need to become some sort of a movement where you're trying to pray this dead body to come back to life. That is, on so many levels, just weird and manipulative and sick. But why I want to even get snarky with this is also that there's been a GoFundMe page started for them. Yes, Stuart, are you being an ass right now? I'm being an absolute ass right now with this because they're trying to raise $100,000 for the unforeseeable expenses for the family will incur. $100,000. They're already up to like $65,000 as I am speaking right now. And I'm not trying to make fun of their loss, but I am making fun of Bethel Church's theology and how sick and twisted it gets. And that when people are in systems like this, that it becomes more sick and more twisted and warped to where somehow, if God doesn't do this, it's because someone didn't do enough, they didn't pray hard enough, or probably sin is somehow in their life somewhere. That's what happens in these kind of corrosive environments. I've had friends. I've known people very closely that grew up in environments to where if they got cancer, the church would tell them, "Oh, it's because you have sin in your life. That's why God's not healing you right now." And all of that is just sick and twisted and disgusting. And this story is sick and twisted and disgusting. A little girl died, and that should make us all feel awful for the loss of life and for the tragedy that this family and community are going to have to go through. And that should have been the end of the story. But for us to turn it into something, some sort of a marketing campaign, some sort of a hashtag for something to where we're trying to do something that doesn't make any sense. It's wrong. And it's weird. And all it does is makes things quite disgusting, theologically and psychologically. So yeah. Is that messed up? It is. So I want to transition from that form of messed up, if we can, not even that well. But we're going to then move to now, let's talk about this that I had mentioned at the top of the hour. We're going to talk about the Christianity Today editorial that was written about Trump's impeachment. The article that shook, I don't know how much it really did shaken, but it seemed to at least headline-wise kind of shook around evangelical circles. And the article, it was an editorial by Mark Galli, who is the editor from Christianity Today. He wrote an editorial that said Trump should be removed from office. And he goes to lay out why he believes that Christians, especially evangelicals, should see that Trump needs to be removed from office. And I'll read a couple highlights, and then we're going to talk about a little bit about we'll do, how about this? We'll do highlights, backlash, and then my take. Got it? So here's where we're going to go. So it should be no surprise that the evangelicals overwhelmingly support Trump. The last election, we found that about 80% of white evangelicals supported Trump wholeheartedly and have continued to do so even when Trump has been Trump in front of cameras, when Trump has been caught being Trump in the way that Trump does Trumpy things. Evangelicals have said, no, we're okay with it. We're okay with it because he's giving us what we want, and he's the one that God has for us, which, again, is sick on so many levels. But the beginning of the article, I'm going to pull up some highlights here. So here's some of the highlights from this. And the author says this. He says, the facts in this instance are unambiguous. The president of the United States attempted to use his political power to coerce a foreign leader to harass and discredit one of the president's political opponents. That is not only a violation of the Constitution. More importantly, it's profoundly immoral. And why am I bringing this up? Why am I bringing this up on a show called Snarky Faith? Well, again, I tell you, this show is only necessarily political when Christianity makes it political, if that makes sense. Before Trump started running from office and evangelicals had just a rock hard, holy hard on for him, we didn't talk about politics that much. But when I began to see just the hypocrisy of all of this, hey, we talk about faith in America. This is faith in America today. And today, faith in America is political. Should it be? No. Is it? Yes, it is. So again, we have the editor. Now, he's the outgoing editor kind of, I don't know if this is like a last finger to the evangelical community. But yes, he's calling the president profoundly immoral, which would not sit well with the evangelicals. He goes on to say this: the reason many are not shocked about this is that the president has dumbed down the idea of morality in his administration. He has hired and fired a number of people who are now convicted criminals. He himself has admitted to immoral actions in business and his relationships with women, about which he remains proud. His Twitter feed alone, with its habitual string of mischaracterizations, lies, and slanders, is a near-perfect example of a human being who is morally lost and confused. And he says this: we believe the impeachment hearings have made it absolutely clear in a way that the Mueller investigation did not. The President Trump has abused his authority for personal gain and betrayed his constitutional oath. So, he goes on to actually quote Christianity Today back from 1998 when they spoke out against Clinton and his impeachment. And one of the things I thought fit really well with today, too, was when Christianity Today back then had said this. They said unsavory dealings and immoral acts by the president and those close to him have rendered this administration morally unable to lead. Now, first and foremost, politics and morality don't always necessarily go hand in hand. But when we have a candidate like Trump that has courted the evangelicals, that has courted so much of what I'm going to just go ahead and say is white America or white Christian America, the idea of morality is fair game then. It's fair game amongst them, especially in the narrative of the conversation we're having right now, speaking out against religious hypocrisy. And it's one thing that we've done here on the show from the very beginning, because it never made sense to me how the evangelicals could get in bed with his man and continue to defend him time and time again. And do almost like theological gymnastics to be able to go to extreme measures to be able to justify his actions and his moral corruptness. And so in this article, which has rubbed a lot of people wrong, I mean, I guess that would make sense because Trump has literally rubbed and touched a lot of people wrong. But it wasn't simply the fact that they were calling out Trump. They're also calling out evangelicals. So it went on to say this: to the many evangelicals who continue to support Mr. Trump in spite of his blackened moral record, we might say this: remember who you are and whom you serve. Consider how your justification of Mr. Trump influences your witness to your Lord and Savior. Consider what an unbelieving world will say if you continue to brush off Mr. Trump's immoral words and behavior in the cause of political expediency. If we don't reverse course now, will anyone take anything that we say about justice and righteousness with any seriousness for decades to come? Can we say that with a straight face that abortion is a great evil that cannot be tolerated, and then with the same straight face say that the bent and broken character of our nation's leader doesn't really matter in the end? Now, end quote. Essentially, they're saying is the ends don't justify the means. Now, as much as people have applauded Mark Galley for saying this, I won't get into this fully at this moment right now, but I would be... Actually, my first thoughts upon when I heard about this and read about this, I said, it's about damn time. It's about damn time. And it really feels like for those evangelicals that felt icky, that felt, I'm a little off in my spirit about this guy, feels a little bit too little, too late. It feels like they waited for a time that was convenient enough to be able to call this crap out. And so I will say it is kind of a brave act to have written this in a magazine like this. But I'm not going to really call this brave or courageous at all. Because why now? And why did it take until now? But we'll get more to that in a little bit. So that is the piece that we're going to kind of be bobbing and weaving around as we talk through this. Now, you may also ask yourself, what has been the pushback to this? Well, I'm here to tell you that. And I want to give a couple shouts out to one of our listeners who didn't necessarily want to be called out completely, but I'll say, whoop, whoop, way to go, Angie. As much as I'll declare who you are. Angie, you're awesome. Thank you for sending me a bunch of articles in addition to this Christianity Today thing. So you're awesome. And she sent me this, an article in Fox News of all places. Yucky, but nearly, in their article entitled, which should not surprise you at all, by Frank Miles, nearly 200 evangelical leaders condemn Christianity Today's editorial on Trump. Yeah. Are you surprised? No. And, amongst all of these that are calling this out, we've got all of those that you would think, first and foremost, the president, who has been calling out Christianity Today as being a far-left magazine, which is laughable, and being very progressive, which is also laughable. Very, very rarely do I agree with Christianity Today. I feel like they stay very close to the base. They play their games very close to what makes their readers happy. So to even call this also just harkens to the fact that the president does not read, which he had also said, yes, a far-left magazine, or very progressive, as some would call it, which has been doing poorly and hasn't been involved with the Billy Graham family for many years. Christianity Today knows nothing about reading a perfect transcript of a routine phone call and would rather have the radical left non-believer who, this is Trump talking, who wants to take your religion and your guns than Donald Trump as your president. No president has done more for the evangelical community, and it's not even close. You'll not get anything from those Dems on the stage. I won't be reading E.T. again, which again, yes, President Tiny Thumbs somehow can't type in CT instead of ET, but someone needs to phone home here. But really, what I'm getting at here, I love the fact that he's like, I won't read it again. I am not a betting man. Anyone that knows me knows I don't like to bet. I would wager good money on the fact that he has never read Christianity Today. So that's just rich coming from the president. And then, as you would also just assume, his pundits have come to his aid, the Jim Jeffers of the world, Franklin Grahams of the world, and the Jerry Falwell Jr.'s beginning calling about how far left this publication is. Again, it is not at all. Yes. And what I actually kind of want to do and focus on this, which to me, and I'll poke some holes more in that editorial, that I kind of thought that they didn't really go far enough, and I thought that they played it really safe. But then what came was another opinion piece from the Christian Post, from the Christian Post, not Christianity Today, that was entitled by Why I Stand by 45 by Jensen Franklin. So again, you kind of know what you're getting here. So this is the clapback of why evangelicals still stand for Trump. And here's a couple of the highlights in that article. Saying that I would like to respectfully challenge the author's definition of morality and character within the context of first-hand observation. What does that mean? Have you seen any of his immorality? Have you been there firsthand, or have you only heard about it? No, we have TVs. We've seen Trump be immoral on TV and on Twitter. So first-hand observation, first of all, shut up. That is the dumbest. That is one of the most foolish arguments against this. Which one of you have seen this firsthand? We have. And then the author launches into the diatribe on socialism. Socialism was on the rise, and the religious liberties of citizens and business owners and even the clergy were being threatened at greater levels than any other time in modern history. I'm going to go ahead and say this isn't a historian who's writing this. And they continue saying, make no mistake, our nation was every bit as divided as it is now, and evangelicals felt every bit of concern, and even larger at the direction of our nation was being driven. Only Christians didn't march in the streets and respond in physical ways like we see today. Instead, we prayed. We guarded our churches, our families. We waited for our chance to speak out at the ballot box. Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, you're so moral. You're so pious. You've just been down on your knees praying the entire time. Oh, yeah. They continue saying, this is not because of millions of evangelicals have lost their moral compass or betrayed their beliefs or turned their backs on God. It's because they see a president who has lived up to a different kind of integrity. Alternative integrity? A different kind of I'll continue, sorry. A different kind of integrity and character in a leader by keeping his promises. Add to that the fact that he is the most pro-life president in modern history, and the record of Donald J. Trump's actions speak a better testimony than 100 words or tweets spoken in haste. So, what we're going to see from this asshat, Pastor Jensen Franklin, who's a senior pastor at Free Chapel, a multi-campus church. I like how they have that. Because again, when pastors are whipping out theirs to compare size, we need to make sure that we know this is a multi-campus church that they have in the bio line here at the bottom of this. Yeah. Okay. So, the one thing that I find very interesting when I'm reading this diatribe here is that, and I've seen this in many other articles here, and again, it was echoed through a lot of Trump's pundits on Fox News. They will say this: he's the most pro-life. He is the most pro-religious liberty. And he is the most pro-Israel. Okay? So, pro-life, pro-religious liberty, aka pro-bigotry, and pro-Israel, aka nation-state of Israel. Okay, not Jewish people, pro-Israel. Okay, so let's just wrestle with that for a moment. Because I'm hearing this spoken again and again. If you hear Robert Jeffress, as the little man likes to speak all the time on Fox News, he will say that. Franklin Graham will continue to say that. And the same thing with Falwell Jr. and all of those other asshats that are out there trying to defend the president. Now, they say this makes him the most evangelical, the most Christian ever, because he follows these three things. And they will say it time and time again, over and over and over again. So are these the definition of what it means to be a follower of Christ? Here's my pushback on a lot of this. So, to be a Christian, you need to be pro-life, pro-religious liberty, and pro-Israel. Because that is how they are somehow using to defend this guy that they have said has been appointed by God. Right? So I'm pretty sure that if we return to scriptures, we're going to see many scriptures about why abortion is terrible. We're going to see a lot of scriptures about why religious liberty is important, and many scriptures of why we need to be we need to protect the nation state of modern day Israel. Oh wait, none of those are in scripture because none of those had happened back in the time of Jesus or before that point. Interesting. So is this a really weird and false reading of scripture? And are these people probably leading their flocks astray by filling their minds with a bunch of things that are nonsense? Because essentially what I'm saying here is this. When we hear them say this again and again to defend the president, he has done this, this, and this. This is why he is a great leader for us. Okay? Follow my logic here. They are essentially saying these are the foundations of being a follower of Jesus. To be someone that is a friend of the evangelical community, you must do these three things. If he sleeps around with porn stars, pays them off on the sly, no biggie, as long as he's doing these three things. He can do immoral things with the Ukraine. He can say horrible things to the wives of congressmen who have died, essentially insinuating that they are in hell right now looking up at this that's going on here. So it doesn't matter what he does or has done or continues to do as long as he's pro-life, pro-religious liberty, and pro-Israel. Now, if we want to look at scripture here, as we should, because a bunch of pastors and religious leaders like to bark this at us, let's do this. So, we're going to hop over here. Very simple. It's a very simple thing. And Jesus makes it very clear and very simple. Matthew 22. Okay, we're going to start off Matthew 22, 34. And when the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they themselves gathered together. One of them, an expert of law, tested him with a question. Teacher, which command is the greatest in the law? Because again, we're talking about the Pharisees. They were very legalistic in how they read scripture. They were very much check boxes and judgmental and pious, much like the evangelicals today. Okay. Teacher, which is the greatest in the law? And this is in verse 37. Jesus declared, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. I'm going to say that again, because I think a lot of these folks are missing this kind of big deal here. Big deal if you're a follower of Jesus. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. What were they again? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And the second one was love your neighbor as yourself. Pro-life? That wasn't in there. Religious liberty? Not in there. Pro-Israel? Not in there either. So what they have done, they have turned faith into politics. They have turned faith into politics because politics can give them leverage, and leverage gives them power. And then they can inflict that power upon everyone else. And I even want to just go ahead, I wasn't even going to do this, but I'm going to do this. Let's just go ahead and break this down too. Pro-life. My problem with the pro-life argument with this is this. Most of the people that are very explicitly pro-life are not in a situation where they need to have an abortion. So in that very nature, the fact that you're being pro-life means that you're judging others. But it's about the babies. Well, if it's about the babies, are you willing to put down your sign as you're picketing abortion clinics and go tell that young woman, I will pay for your insurance cost and we will adopt that child when we are done with? I will guarantee you people would rather picket than actually do something that matters, than actually go and be the kingdom of God. If you care so much about what is happening right there, because again, there's a lot of issues that this is a very complicated issue. It has to do with economics, it has to do with healthcare, it has to do with so many other things. But if they truly care that much about babies, are they willing to go and adopt these babies? The answer is no, they're not. It's a talking point, and it is a point of righteousness and piousness and judgment, and it is sick, and it has nothing to do with God. The gospel will tell them, fine, if you feel passionate about this, go and do something about it. Religious liberty, let's talk about this. Religious liberty doesn't mean you get to be an asshole and thrust your beliefs upon other people. No, it means you worship God and let other people worship the way they want to. That's actually religious liberty. But that's not what they mean. That's not what they mean. They want to be able to draw lines and discriminate against people. They want to make people feel that they are not loved by God and not cared for by God. And pro-Israel, it's partially really ridiculous because, again, they're caught up in the idea of being able to build up the people of God, the children of Israel, the people of God, not the nation state of Israel, which has gotten very convoluted, and it is a really bad reading of Scripture and of history. I could go into more of that, but maybe on another show. But again, I continue to this point that their points to continue to support Trump, to continue to justify Trump, make no sense. And ultimately, I will leave the evangelical church with this scathing rebuke from Jesus. Matthew 6:24. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. And in this situation, I would say you cannot serve God and politics. Evangelicals, get off your high horse. Take a long, hard look in the mirror and realize you're not following Jesus anymore. You're following your own prideful ambition and a man that is full of only prideful ambition. And you've become morally bankrupt. That's all the time we got this week. And as we end this broadcast, just a reminder, you can catch this show and past shows on podcast at www.snarkyfaith.com. But I appreciate you, all my listeners. If you ever want to reach out, say good things, say bad things. Hey, I'm all good for hate mail. You can send me messages at questions@snarkyfaith.com. But I will continue to implore you to be awake and vigilant to the good that you need to be doing in your communities and to your neighbors around you, whether they are like you or not like you. So I send you out the holiest amount of grace and snark and peace. I'll catch you guys again next week. I'm out of here. Peace!
WCOM is listener-supported community radio, and Snarky Faith is only possible through our sponsors. Lumen, a spiritual community of seekers, sojourners, question askers, doubters, and skeptics, is a collective of fellow travelers that embrace the truth that all of life is sacred, hope is real, and tomorrow can be a better day than today. All are welcome. You can find more information at www.lumencommunities.com.